Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Azim Premji University Open House Information Session. This is the second of the series. Today, we will focus on the humanities programs, the philosophy, English, history, and economics programs. We have with us faculty members from each of these disciplines, and they will actually take you through a small presentation covering what is taught in the courses, how it is structured, etc., etc. After the presentations, they will be here to answer all your questions regarding the respective programs. As you already know, tomorrow we will have a similar session on the science programs. So the first session would be on philosophy, and the speaker for that would be Aditi, who teaches philosophy at our university. Over to you, Aditi.
Hello, everyone. All right. Do we have the slides up? Yes, fantastic. Okay, I'm also here, and in chat, you'll find my colleague Juliana, who is also there to answer your question, to take your responses. So, BA Philosophy at Azim Premji University. Now, I could tell you what it's about, or I could start by showing you what it's about. So why not do that? Let's move on to the next slide, if you may. And the one after that. We're not yet in philosophy. That's okay. And after that, there we go. That's it. All right. So how many of you like to listen to sad music? Respond in the comments if you do. Do you like sad music? Anyone? No one? I like sad music sometimes, right? How about scary movies? Does anyone maybe like scary movies, horror movies? You do? Okay, all right there. All right, there we go. We have a response. So here's the thing. But here's kind of one problem, right? We actually don't enjoy being sad. That seems, fairly obvious. We don't really enjoy being sad. Here's a fact also, sad music makes us sad. And we enjoy sad music. That's strange, right? Those three things shouldn't be able to be held together. Or if you're one of those who doesn't like sad music, but you like horror movies, maybe you can say, we don't enjoy being scared. Horror movies scare us, and we enjoy horror movies. Somehow, these three claims taken together don't quite work. One of them has to go, right? So we avoid things that make us sad. So sad music makes us sad. We don't avoid sad music. We avoid things that scare us. I mean, I know I'm scared of cockroaches. I don't know about you. I avoid cockroaches, right? So we want to avoid things that scare us. Horror movies scare us. But we don't avoid horror movies, or at least those of us who like horror movies don't avoid them. What's going on here? Which of these three do you think you would want to give up? Keep in mind, let's take the case of sad music, but you can apply it in other places as well. Let's just say we avoid things that make us sad. Sad music makes us sad, and we don't avoid sad music. Maybe you can comment in chat about which of these three you would want to give up. Yes, Vishnu, thank you for affirming the fact that cockroaches are terrifying. So this is one of the puzzles that we look at in our course on the philosophy of art. We look at a bunch of other questions as well, but this seeming paradox, sometimes called the paradox of tragedy, there's also the paradox of horror, right? So this is one of the puzzles we try to dissolve, think of possible answers to. Maybe you can think of answers to this. How can we get by without giving up any one of these three claims? Must we give up one of these three claims? If it were up to you, which of these three claims would you give up? All right, so I'll let you kind of chat about this in the comments. Another course that we have, which is in fact one of our first year courses, paradoxes. So let's just take this sentence, all right? Let's just say, and maybe you could type this for me, Juliana, in the comments. This sentence is false, all right? This sentence is false. Now, here's my question. Is that sentence true or false? What do you think? Just respond to only two possibilities, true or false. Is this sentence is false, true or false? Just what do you think? It's okay. Sentence is false, right? So anyone have thoughts? All right. Do you think it's true? Maybe it's true, right? So here's the thing. If this sentence is false, is true, that means it's false. Barney, you say it's true. Okay, cool. But if it's true, it's false. Harsh, you agree. But hang on. This sentence is false, is true. That means it's false. Now, some of you say it's false. Do I see a false there? Hang on. Yes, Arundhati, you said it's false. But if it's false, then it's true. Ooh, and someone here says both. Jane, you say both. That's really interesting, right? Now, so here's kind of the trouble. If it's true, it's false. If it's false, it's true. It seems like we're stuck. And now we've got two amazing responses here in chat. We've got Jane who says it's both, and we've got Arav who says it's neither. And that's excellent. That's a great place to start. But how exactly can something be both true and false? And how exactly can something be neither true or false? We are so used to everything being one or the other and never both together. How can we make sense of something like that? That is something that we explore in our course Paradoxes, which you will do in your very first semester of the BA in philosophy. All right, so that's just two of our courses that are part of the BA philosophy. I'll kind of quickly tell you about some of the others. If you would like to learn more about each of them a little more in depth, you can go to our Google site. Juliana will share the link to this in the YouTube chat. You can go take a look. We've got a bunch of videos there that explain all of our courses. And you can also see the entire curriculum kind of laid out there. To give you a quick sense of this, we do political philosophy, where we look at the major political ideologies in India and we analyze problems and debates and questions through those ideologies, through nationalism, liberalism, and Marxism. We have a course on civil disobedience and resistance. We ask ourselves when civil disobedience might be permissible, whether non-violence is morally required, whether it's morally justifiable. And we do this by looking, via in-depth studies, case studies of movements. In philosophy of religion, we enable you to understand and work with other people from any of the major religions in India. In the philosophy of environment, we look at different parts of philosophy and we analyze problems about the relationship between humans and the environment. We also talk about the value and the moral and political status of the environment. In our course in philosophy of measurement, we use measurements all the time for all kinds of reasons. We use statistics all the time. But here we actually ask, where do those stats come from? What is their moral basis? What are their presuppositions? In ethics, we look at a range of moral dilemmas, of questions that trouble us in our everyday life. And we look at ways of identifying, kind of evaluating these debates. And we learn to come up, most importantly, with our own views, with our own criticism. So that's kind of our focus throughout. It's not about who said what when. We don't talk about great figures. What we do with our BA in philosophy is we enable you to do philosophy, to be philosophers, to think for yourselves. That's what this is focused on. So, and the last thing, field project. You might be wondering where these photos are from. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but the image that was used on this slide and the previous slide as well, these come from a visit to Jharkhand. So one of the projects that quite a few members of the philosophy group, not just faculty, but many of the students as well in philosophy classes have been involved with is called Jharconnect. And what we do in Jharconnect is we actually connect with workers in rural Jharkhand and we help them access their government entitlements, things like pensions and ration cards, rural employment, labor cards. So this is just one of the kinds of things you might do as part of a field project in philosophy. Could we move on to the next slide, please? So hopefully what this has also let you see, so we've got this kind of array of courses and what you can do with philosophy. So often people think, okay, philosophy, what are you going to do with that, right? You're going to just kind of go and sit on a rock and think, or are you just going to, kind of have these vague thoughts? Are you going to be engaging in abstract reasoning? Hopefully, just looking at getting a sense of our courses will help you see that that's not at all what we are doing with philosophy. But furthermore, it would be natural for you to wonder what you might do with philosophy. Maybe these courses sound like fun, but what comes after? Well, you can't sit in a rock and think, Amartya. No one's stopping you doing that either. But it's not just that. It's not just that. Well, or if you sit in a rock and think, you're not sitting in a rock and thinking all alone, because conversations, listening to others, thinking with others is a very, very big part of what we do here. But in case you wondered about what happens after, here are just some very basic statistics. These are US-based. The LSAT, which is a scholastic aptitude test for people to get into law schools. Here's the thing, philosophers do better in this than people with degrees in legal studies. The GRE, which is the exam that you take to go to graduate school in the US, philosophers do better in this than most any other discipline. And why might this be? Well, because what philosophy gives you, it's not a bunch of information or facts, it's capabilities. It's the ability to reason, to think, to approach the world in a particular way. And as it happens, the way it allows you to think and analyze things around you translates, as you can see, into actually doing very well on standardized tests and various other kinds of measures. And so it's not surprising that philosophers do well in all kinds of jobs as well. If you can go on to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. All right, so what you can do with philosophy? Well, anything that requires you to think. And this isn't just accidental, right? So we actually designed our curriculum in close consultation with people in a range of sectors. We talked to theater directors, we talked to people who worked in the arts, we talked to academics, we talked to school teachers, we talked to civil servants, we talked to people who were lawyers, who were activists of various kinds. We talked to a bunch of different kinds of people, and we formed our curriculum through these conversations with them. We got a sense of the kinds of graduates that they were looking for, the kinds of students, the kinds of capabilities that they wished students coming out of undergraduate programs had. And we used this to inform how we thought about our very curriculum. So that's been a big part of shaping this. A lot of us, my students have in the past gone on to take up careers ranging from banking to theater and everything in between. A large number of our graduating students have gone on to jobs in the social sector. So as to what you can do with philosophy, well, anything, more or less. But in particular, we prepare students very well for future work in the civil service and social sector, in journalism, programming, finance, and lots more. So that's it for our presentation. Please feel free. Please do take a look at the website that Juliana shared with you. Please feel free to contact any of us or all of us at philosophy@apu.edu.in. If you want to talk, have further questions, if you want to talk more about sad music or horror or truth and falsity, please get in touch. And we'll take questions at the end of all of this. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shalini. I teach with the English program. So, hi, it's great to see you all. I'm going to start, actually, as we often start English classes, I'm going to start with a question for you guys, which is, how many of you have studied English at some point in school over the last few years? Yes, has anybody been studying English? Have you done it in school? Yes. Okay. So you've been studying English. So when I say that you're going to do a BA in English, right? 3 years of English. What do you think that'll look like? What do you think happens in an English classroom? Okay, lots of people studying English in school. What does an English classroom look like, though? When I say here's English, what do you think? What do you think might happen? Okay, so there's some affection. People like it. That's good. I also like English very much. Speaking, talking about novels. Yes, absolutely. A lot of reading and writing, a lot of discussion and debates. Yes, also that. Okay, so before I start talking about how we are thinking about the English program in BA, and let me just take a look at this pie chart, right? So this is approximately what a BA English program looks like. You'll see that there's a lot of what you're going to be doing is the English elective and the English core, and that's really what I'm going to be talking about to you today. Stories, interpretations, comprehension of grammar, all correct. Buckle, can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, someone says pretty vibes, and we are aiming for pretty vibes, yes, but I'm not sure that happens. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the kinds of courses that we do in the English core. As you can see, these are the way the way English works. We take into consideration a great deal of what students bring to the course. Right, the students in an English classroom come from a variety of backgrounds, each carrying with them a certain idea of what literature is, what kinds of work count as literature, what kind of text is a literary text, and so on. And so when we think of the literature program, all of this is sort of built into it. So one of the things that happens with the English core is that we end up having a lot of writing courses. These often work in parallel with the other courses. So you will learn to read, you learn to analyze, you learn to think, but you'll also learn to participate in those forms. Right? So you can see that the way our courses work, there are some courses which are writing courses, there are some courses which are more theoretically heavy. There are a lot of courses which are particularly. Sorry, let me say this a little louder? Tell me if it's clearer. There are a lot of courses which are much more focused on literature as not just as books, but as part of a larger context. Right. So we have courses which think of literary text as part of as productions of specific societies, specific places, stories as stories, not that are very specific to certain communities, certain people. So this is sort of what the English core looks like, right? So we also spend a lot of time focusing on particular literary forms. So you might look at drama, you might look at poetry, you look at short stories, and so on. What does this mean for class, right? What it really means is that a literature classroom tends to have a lot of activities. So you might have creative activities, writing, enacting something if you're studying drama, making films, making comics. You might end up doing a lot of translations in your class. This is something that happens in several literature courses, which is you translate works from your community into English, or you might translate something in English into a language, into the language that you speak. You might also have more contemplative kind of exercises, right? You might keep a journal. You might do a certain amount of self-reflection about what a piece means to you, and so on. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thanks. Apart from the core, there are a bunch of electives in the English program. These are what we think of as specializations that gesture towards what you might do after a BA. Right, so you can see some of the ways in which you might want to think about the English language. So, for instance, if you take a lot of media and communication courses, you might want to be thinking about working in those fields. You might want to do a course in literary studies, This particularly if you're interested in studying literature further, in doing your master's, maybe going into research. You might take writing courses, you might take courses in cultural studies if you're interested in looking at other forms of texts, right? You might, in cultural studies, you look at films, you look at comics, you look at other kinds of texts, you look at TV shows, and so on. You might want to focus on translation if you're interested in the ways that texts from different languages work together. Can I have the next slide, please? So each of these is sort of hopefully pointing you in a direction of something that you might want to do in the future. You might want to, if you're interested in stories, if you're interested in studying further and doing some research, if you're interested in working with editing, publishing, if you're interested in media, if you're interested in teaching, I can say that teaching is a fun job. If you're interested in working in the social sector, in storytelling, either verbally, orally, or in writing, and so on. So really, when we say we call it a BA English program, but it's you're studying many Englishes when you do this course. Thank you. You can look up the full syllabus on the website, and I think you can, if you have questions, you can ask them at the end of the session. Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Amit and I teach history at Azim Premji University. So before I go and talk about what we teach, can I know what you have been doing in school, those of you who did history? Was it this very boring subject? Were you supposed to remember dates, remember the names? Is it that what you did as history in school? Some idea? Those of you who did history in school. Hi Meghna. So what kind of history were you doing at school? Was it about dates? Sleeping during the class? Absolutely. Okay. That tells us why many people, yes, why many people run away from history. Okay. What else? World War II stories and Mughal history. Okay. Did somebody find history interesting? History classes. What was the interesting thing? Fascinating stories. Okay. So there are some people who are interested in stories and history. Yes. So, okay, so first clarification, we don't do that kind of history. We don't stress on dates and names. We don't do that. What, as you can see, our motto is very clear. We narrate stories and then try to understand societies from those stories. But there is slight difference between, fantasy and history. For example, you can say anything when you are writing literature, when you are into a story or a novel, you can say anything. You can let your imagination fly, and nobody will ask you, how can you say that, right? But we know when you say something about, say, Akbar or Gandhiji, you say something about these people, people will ask question, how do you know this? Where is your proof, right? So in history also, apart from stories and fantasy imagination, we also seek some kind of truth, some kind of proof, right? So that is what we do. But I can assure you one thing, that history is taught at different kind of history is taught at Azim Premji University are not about dates, are not about these famous people, are not about kings and queens and their darbaris, right? So we talk about inclusive, holistic history. So first thing is that two things I want to tell you before we go to the next slide. First thing is that we don't do history of kings and queens and their nobles only. We talk history of people, by which I mean everyone. All of us think about this. All of us come from certain regions, certain groups, and whether we move to some other part of the world, we carry some of that regional history with us. So, for example, when if some of you get to qualify the entrance of Azim Premji University, you'll come to Bangalore. Imagine you are coming from Kerala. Will you suddenly forget the culture, the traditions, the language you were born and brought up with? You will not, right? So you will carry this forward, and which means you are somehow linked to your past, somehow linked to your history. And that's what we also try to do. We try to talk of a kind of history which is about people, and it doesn't require only elite privileged people. Second is, when you think about, for example, our history course is mostly dominated by Indian history or subcontinent history, South Asian history. But when we talk about Indian history here at Azim Premji University, we do not talk of it as only India, isolated India. We talk of India, its relation with, say, China, with Japan, with Europe, with, if you go ancient times to Roman Empire, trade relations. We talk of India rather in a global framework within the larger histories of the world. So, for example, somebody just talked about World War II. So, can you think about India's role in World War II? What was happening around, say, 1939, 42 in India? So, that's how we try to place India not in isolation, but in larger history of the world. So, this is the basic idea of how we do history. Can you please change the slide? Yeah. So, what exactly are we trying to achieve through this course? So, first is, as I said, we try to be inclusive. We are not trying to be exclusive, that we exclude certain populations from our narrative, from our stories. We try to include every possible society, group, ethnicities, linguistic groups, all kind of groups. We try to, include people into our stories. We try to be as comprehensive as possible. So, for example, let me give an example. There might be certain societies who do not have written records, right? So, how do you talk about their histories? So, in order to make our histories comprehensive, we go to anthropology, we go to literature, we go to probably economics as well, and we try to find some aspect of our past from these different subjects. So we go rigorously, we go comprehensive, and we try to become interdisciplinary and draw from other subjects as well. Second is, and this is I think all of us are facing this issue. So all of you might, or some of you might be in WhatsApp groups where you suddenly get these, supposedly historical events, and people say many things in these WhatsApp groups, right? But what we try to do here is to create, is try to give you some historical consciousness, historical sensibility, which means asking the question. If somebody says that, okay, this king died because of this, or national movement, Gandhi was this kind of leader or that kind of leader, we want you to ask questions. The person saying that, is he or she saying the right thing? So that historical sensibility, that's what we try to give people, the students here, so that you have to speak and think historically. You can't, say anything you want. Second is, again, the problems of the present, and I can give you examples. Some years back we had the controversy about Padmavat movie. Some say Padmavat, some say Padmavati, and there was a huge controversy. So we also go into those controversies and try to explain as historians in our class, and we experiment with these examples. So we also try to somehow situate ourselves, our courses, into present debates. We don't shy away from present debates. It's not that, okay, this is, I don't we don't want to talk about controversies. We do. We want to go in there as historians, as students of histories, and try to understand what actually happened, or if we can get some idea of what actually happened at that time, right? And then we also sort of push many students to actually practice history. So India is the whole subcontinent is a place which is a walking history. You walk on one side, you have a monument there, you have a mazar there, you might have a temple there, and we don't see these, these temples or these buildings as ruins. We see them as historical artifacts, right? Similarly, if you go towards many people sing songs which are 200-year-old songs. That's what we call oral history. So what we also try to do is practice history, not simply think, okay, this is a ruin, it doesn't mean anything. That's just a song and it doesn't mean anything. We also try to think of these, through these ruins, through these songs, as something very important for our own past. Can we move the slide? Now, giving you a quick overview of the courses. So, on one side, probably the left side, you might have already seen in different universities. We do what you call doing history, in which we give you the skills and the tools how you do history. So, for example, here, what is a fact? How do you build a narrative? How to question a fact? How do you go to an archive? How do you do oral history? All these things we do in doing history. Then, the ancient India, medieval India, colonial India, history of the present, history and the idea of India, this Indian Ocean world might be little new for you. So what we do is we also think of Indian Ocean as having its own histories connected to the land and connected to the other seas as well. So we do a history more or less in the global framework of Indian Ocean. When we go to the electives, there is a lot of choice one can pick. For example, you can do labor histories, you can do histories of capitalism. One of our colleagues is teaching a course which is about South Asian feminism. I teach, I'm working on a course which is global history of Islam, and also another course which is about history of Western Himalayas. So these are the courses which probably you won't find in many other Indian universities, and that's where we try to go. Uh, do something which is slightly different from many other courses, history courses in India and outside as well. Can you move to the last slide? Okay, so what can we do after, for example, after you are done with your course in history? What are you supposed to do? So I can say anything and everything which requires reading and writing, analyzing. So you can go towards film. Many of our students have gone towards journalism, media. You can actually teach at a school level, primary school level, high school level. You can become writers and authors, because with that critical historical sensibility, you can actually become writers. You can go in social sector as well. And one very important emerging field is preservation. So you can go towards archives, you can go towards museums and heritage. And many of our students do go for higher education. So they do their MA, masters and MPhils and PhDs in history or in other allied fields. Some do in India, some go abroad. So these are different fields. Or of course, you can also go towards public policy, civil services, and some of you do have civil service in mind. So all these fields are open when you think about history as a course. So you can go in all possible directions. As I said, if you're interested in reading and writing, then the whole world is open to you. And particularly with that historical sensibility, I think it comes as an aid in everything you're doing, whether you're a journalist, you're a teacher, or you go in civil services. So that will be all from my side. If there are questions, I'll take them later. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Zico and I teach economics in Azim Premji University. What I would like to do today is to give you a broad overview of our economics program. What are its specificities, what are its aim, the kind of syllabus or the structure that we teach, and broadly what are the kind of opportunities that you would have after completing BA Economics. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, thanks. So economics is, of course, one of the very popular courses, both because of the manner in which it provides analysis to how society evolves, or it's the application in different things. And there are different universities and colleges which would teach you economics, but there are specific features in the manner in which economics as a subject, it is taught in Azim Premji University. And there are 5-6 points which I would like to emphasize. First, here we provide a variety of theories and concepts, and we expose the students to different kinds of theoretical debates. And why is it important? It is important particularly in a field like economics or social science. Think about a contemporary debate on the labor reforms. It is a well-known fact at this point of time that the economy has slowed down and there is a problem of huge unemployment. And yet, what needs to be done on this, there would be completely opposite views and different positions. And the opposite views would come from different theoretical frameworks. Most of the other curriculum in conventional economic textbooks exposes students to one particular kind of view. What is novel about the course structure in this university is that you would get an understanding of different kinds of theoretical frameworks and overviews, and how to look at the same question through different perspectives and different theoretical frameworks. Second, there is an emphasis on the real world institutions. Most of the conventional economics textbooks would provide you with an analytical framework, which is not quite the way in which the real world operates. Think about the great global financial crisis in 2008. The moment the economy crashed, there was a huge impact. But one of the important development was that there were different universities in Europe and US where the students dissented, saying that the textbooks that they were that they were being taught did not give them any clue about the kind of crisis that the economy is facing. And one reason was that conventional textbooks, which was operating at that point of time, did not well address the real world institutions. How does banks operate? How does central banks in the real world take decisions? How are actual fiscal policies are undertaken? How do we look at an Indian economy, a specific context where there are, at one hand, people living in the agricultural sector, and a portion of workforce working in the urban city? How do we understand these processes? Real world institutions is one of the major emphasis of this study. The third is related to this is our emphasis on the Indian context. Most of the other textbooks or curriculum has an overview of developed world. It provides an analytical framework. It teaches economics along with by referring to events which are specific to countries like US or Europe. Here, you would have a specific emphasis on how do we think about economics theory or economic tools in its application for the Indian economy, in the Indian context. Posing critical questions. We encourage students to ask critical questions, not only in the manner in which economic theory is perceived, but engage critically with different kinds of economic debates. Gathering resources, we encourage students to pursue their own research while pursuing their UG program. Students would be asked to gather their own articles, analyze data, and engage with the faculty members, have discussions with them to come up with their own research. And finally, communicating ideas. How should economists communicate their ideas to those who are not exactly trained in economics? There would be courses which are specifically aimed at addressing these questions. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the compulsory courses which reflects the broad aims of this program. The first is these are the 6 compulsory courses in the economics, and the first is Introduction to Economics, and this is quite a unique program. This relates and Introduction to Economics. It engages with a curriculum called the core textbook. It involves an international community. This is pursued. This program is pursued in different leading universities of the world, and it came up after the global financial crisis. This project, which tries to look at the real world, finding answers, and providing analytical framework to address real life questions. So this would provide a broad overview how to look at economics in the present world. So this is Introduction to Economics 1 and 2. Second, you would have statistics and programming, which deals with statistical theories, how to deal with real life data, and questions of programming. Mostly in different places where you get these courses, for example, statistics, the sole emphasis lies on learning the theory. Over here, along with theory, you would get an hands-on approach, how to deal with or analyze data based on that theory. Then we have courses on political economy. This is a quite a unique course. And of course, you have the usual micro, macro, and the Indian economy course. These are the compulsory course related to economics. Over and above that, we also have what is called as the compulsory distributive courses. What it means is that you will have courses like quantitative methods or linear algebra, which is not exactly related to economics, but helps you to analyze different concepts or different theories of economics. So that would be a part of the course as well. Can we move to the next slide? So this is a list of elective courses. So you can think of all the elective courses that we have. You can club it into broadly three kinds of categories. Courses that essentially focuses on policies and practices. These would be courses related to development economics, a micro perspective of development economics, or macro perspectives of development economics. We have courses like Survey of World Economic History, Money and Banking. The second category you can think of as a broad way of looking at the world, the perspectives, different ways of seeing the world. Subjects related to game theory, history of economic thought, economic growth, feminist economics, economic philosophy. These are all very unique courses which are designed for this purpose. Third, there would be a category of courses directly which equips you to get some skills or tools that would be used in economics. For example, econometrics, advanced topics in microeconomics, macroeconomics, and computational economics, where you would engage with different softwares like Python to deal with analytical exercises. So broadly, these would be the broad set of elective courses, and out of different elective courses, you would choose broadly 5 kinds of courses among them. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So lastly, why do a BA economics degree? There are, of course, different purposes of having an economics degree. One is a direct use of being an economist, being associated with teaching jobs either in universities or colleges. But there are also different ways of applying the knowledge of economics. As in the development sectors, in the NGOs, as a school teachers, as different kinds of public administrative offices, as a banker, as data journalists, and as well as in the corporate sector. So this would be a broad overview about the economics program. If you have any queries, we can take it up in the question and answer session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditi, Amit, Shalini, and Zico, for very short and very sort of direct presentations. It gave a good overview of what the course covers, although not in the amount of detail that would make it a sort of long, drawn, and boring. Obviously, there are a lot of questions from the students, from the potential applicants who have been attending these presentations. Of course, I was very happy that there was a lot of participation from them too, right? I mean, they answered your questions, as you were asking them. But there is more that they need to know. So I think we can take them one by one so that everybody can listen into the answers also, right? So the first question that we have here is for Amit, is saying, will history supplement the civil service process? So do you want to take that, Amit, and say that will it help them become IS officers?
Sure. So the answer is both yes and no. So don't think about history department preparing you for UPSC. It will not do that. But the kind of courses we have, the kind of reading material you will get is very exhaustive. So I showed you the courses. We cover mostly the syllabus which is covered by UPSC history, papers. We cover doing history. We cover ancient India, medieval India, modern India, and we do cover also world history. So in that way you can read a lot, and that can help you in your entrance examination, not only UPSC but other entrance examination as well. But as I said, be very clear that we will not be here to help you to crack UPSC. I don't want to give you this misinformation that we will help you. We have a very different kind of way in which we teach history. But because you read a lot, so tomorrow when the paper comes in front of you, I don't think it should be a problem. So answer is both yes and no. I think there is another question: how much contemporary history is covered? So
Yes,
we
there
do
is
cover a
one.
substantial. So yes, so we do cover a substantial part of India after independence. So as you see, I showed you the course. One course is called History of the Present. So what we do in that course is we go beyond 47. We talk about India after independence. We talk about five-year plans. We talk about national planning. We talk about the political situations, the changes that happen after 47. So what the course instructors mostly in this course do is they take current examples, analyze them, and then go back towards history. So yes, we do cover quite a big chunk of India after independence. Yes.
Thank you, Amit. Okay, I will get Zico to answer a couple of questions. There is, two questions actually: a BA Economics and BCom, similar, complementary. Can we do one instead of the other? And also, can we do MCom after BA Economics? I think they're both related. So if you could just cover how a BCom is different from a BA Economics.
Well, in the BA Economics program in the Azim Premji University would include, of course, some aspects of BCom, but they would be completely different kinds of things, precisely because we perceive economics as a discipline which gives you, which requires knowledge not only about the subject of economics, but for different other subjects, for example, history, sociology, other subjects of social science to understand the economy. The breadth of different kinds of things or subjects or topics that you would cover in the BA economics program would be much greater than the BCom program, perhaps. That's one. Can you do an MCom after BA economics? Surely you can. There would be different things in BA economics that you would learn that would be useful perhaps in MCom, but the central aim of the program is not motivated to equip you for specifically MCom program. It largely provides you with the broad idea of thinking about economists as, to help you become an economist, and that may include MCom, but not specific to that. Yeah.
Zico, just since you are talking, there is another question on: is prior knowledge of maths required for economics? We've actually had a lot of questions on this saying, is maths in the grade 12 compulsory for economics, or how much of maths do you need to know for economics? So if you could just cover that, would help.
Yeah.
Even for the
So-
entrance, how much of maths do you need for the entrance?
Yeah, so for the entrance, we don't need maths at the +2 level. So even if you have maths for the 10th level, that would be good. Now we have, so when discussing about the courses, we briefly touched upon some specific core courses. One of them is the quantitative methods course. What it does is that even for students who did not have maths at the +2 level, it ensures that you come up at the end of the course having necessary tools that would be required in the in this entire course. So even if you didn't have the maths at the +2, that's not a problem. What we would expect nonetheless to have some analytical skill, calculating algebraic equations, basic statistical operations like calculating mean, median, modes, additions, subtractions. That would be the bare minimum that we would expect.
Thank you. Thank you, Ziko. Aditi, do you want to take this? What are the transferable skills that one develops after doing BA in philosophy? That's an
Sure, I'd love
interesting.
to. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, all kinds. I mean, so in fact, like I said, our entire curriculum is structured around these things. We use language of capabilities. We're not teaching you, we're not asking you to memorize and learn. We don't have exams for the most part, right? So you're not learning like large chunks of information. You're learning to be a certain way, to look at the world a certain way. In fact, all of our programs do that. So, but the one specific to philosophy is reasoning rigorously, specifically about normative issues, things like, what we should or shouldn't do, what's good or what's bad, being able to communicate with precision and with clarity, listening to people from other backgrounds, especially when those people have radically different views than ours, and listening with charity, with care, with the kind of empathy, as well as accuracy, writing, presenting clearly and simply. Maybe I'm this is I'm undermining this very capability, but being able to be precise and concise. I'm not being very concise right now, but to be evocative, right, as well, to set out ideas very clearly for those who aren't experts in your discipline, jargon-free communication, finding creative solutions for complex problems by drawing on different solutions. So this course, I give you a brief intro to paradoxes, does exactly that. It teaches you creative rigor, right? Engaging critically with all kinds of texts from philosophy, from science, policy documents, legal documents, economics, history. We are a very meddlesome discipline. We like to read texts from all over the place, but you'll get familiarity with those very different kinds of texts. And that's a really useful skill also. And then with our fieldwork in particular, but also with all of our courses, building and sustaining relationships with people. And again, people whose backgrounds may be very different from yours, and kind of applying all of these capabilities to these kind of new practical contexts and to new problems. So yeah, in short, that's, well, not so short, but that's some of the transferable skills that you'll get with the BA Philosophy.
Thank you, Aditi. Shalini, there is one for you. I know that the answer is no, but maybe you can extend the answer to what you're doing in BA English. I mean, the question is, do we have BA BEd in English? And I know that as yet we do not. But I guess the question would be coming from, what do we do to teach English after studying English, right? So maybe you want to cover that, and extend it to what all we can do after studying BA English.
Sure, I'll do that. So we don't have a BEd English right now, but it is something we hope to have eventually, but not yet. But one of the things you can do if you're studying BA English, or in fact any BA in Azim Premji University, is you can do a minor in education, which I think many of our students do, which does equip you with some of the tools you need if you're thinking of doing education seriously. We also, I think some of the kinds of courses we have, writing, the media courses, where you learn how to develop different kinds of materials, right? Both written, visual, etc. I think a lot of the kinds of courses you might do would come in useful if you are thinking of a future in studying education. So,
thank you. Yeah. Actually, there is another related question. It's like, I like English language, but I'm pursuing my +2 in Tamil. Will BA English be too difficult for me?
So, thank you for this question, which is not necessarily, because for all our courses, we do expect students to bring literatures from their own locations to class, right? We like students to be able to translate between English and their own mother tongues. A lot of our texts that you will read are texts in translation, and a lot of the conversation is about how do stories travel between these two languages, between these two cultures. So, I think if you're somewhat comfortable with the English language, we'd probably be quite happy to have you in class.
Thank you. Okay, so there I've been reading the chat questions, and I guess there are questions on how to prepare for the exam. While we cover the MCQ part in generic terms, but since we have the faculty members here, if each of you could take turns and give a 1 minute thing on how to prepare for the descriptive component, which is subject related. So we can take turns. Aditi, do you want to start? How would the philosophy descriptive be? And then we can go to Shalini, Amit, and Zico.
Sure. Like I said in one of there was a question in chat about whether you need to know any philosophy for coming here, and I said no. And the same is true of the descriptive paper. There's no preparation. Just get used to. If you like doing puzzles, maybe do some puzzles. Solve some puzzles for yourself. I don't know. Do you do Sudoku? Maybe give that a shot, right? Maybe have some fun with some logical puzzles. Read Lewis Carroll. I'm not sure what to say, but there's not much that you need to do really to prepare as such for the descriptive component. It really is, there's no knowledge presupposed. There's nothing you have to learn, nothing at all. It's just you get there and you apply yourself to the questions there. So really, no preparation.
Thank you. That's good. Shalini, you want to take English?
I'm going to give you a very similar answer, which is you probably don't need to prepare for the English entrance at all. The kinds of questions we ask you will require you to think about things you already know rather than produce new knowledge. But of course, reading in general will not hurt at all. So feel free to do that.
Thank you. Amit? You want to tell them what they need to know about history for the history entrance?
They don't need to know anything about history. Just get to know yourself. Just scratch identity a bit. Try to see how you reach yourself. How do you understand about yourself? How do you understand about your region? That will do. Because what we do in history entrance exam in the descriptive paper is you will get a passage, and from that the questions will flow. Mostly questions are there, the answers are there in the passage, but we might ask you a very generic question which doesn't require you, for example, any dates, any name you won't have to remember, but it will ask you probably, for example, tell us something about that individual who was in the passage, or that event which was described in the passage. So we might want to check how you think historically. That's all. We are not asking you to remember dates or tell us the dates, nothing like that. But Sapna, there was a question also about electives in history. If I have 1 minute, I can just quickly tell them.
Please,
the electives.
Yes.
So there was a question in the chat about if there are electives in history and what kind of electives do we have. So that's a very exhaustive list. Okay. My internet is breaking, I guess.
Okay, so I think Amit will come back. Zico, you want to take how to prepare for economics? Amit is
Yes.
Sapna, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you now, Amit. Yes, you're back. For a second, you were away.
Okay, I think there is some issue with my internet. So now I think I'm online. So
okay.
There are few courses which I can just quickly tell you the course do as electives. So one is histories of labor, histories of capitalism, intellectual and cultural aspects of modernity, Islam in global history, digital humanities, and one last course, how you think of things, an introduction to material culture. So these are some of the courses, elective courses, which we have in history, but you will have a much more wider range once you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, Zico, economics, how do we prepare for the entrance?
Yeah, so mostly similar. You don't need prior knowledge of economics theory. What we basically test two things. One, your analytical capability, the bare minimum of that, whether you can interpret the graph or not. Addition, subtraction, bare minimum. And second, your basic economic intuition, whether you're being able to make a logically consistent argument or not. So, for example, last year we would ask a question, we would give you a paragraph on a specific economic event, give you a figure, and we would ask you to first interpret it. and then ask your views. How do you explain such a process? And there is no right and wrong answer in that. It's an open-ended question. The basic purpose is to see whether you can make a logically coherent answer or not. So broadly this.
Thank you, Zico. There's another question. What are the jobs I can get after BA Economics? And then there is another deeper one, which is the role of economist in the RBI. So if you have, if you can just touch 2 lines on that, we've had that
Well,
before too.
I'll maybe tell you what have some of our students have been doing. Some of them have joined as researchers in different research institutions. Some of them have been working with the faculty members in Nazim Premji University itself. Some of them have been working in development sectors. And one can also think of ways in doing works in data journalism. So there will be different kinds of opportunities. And of course, the BA program also opens up the possibility for you to carry on your research in either in masters or something related to that. So a host of possibilities would open up. Related to RBI, RBI related jobs would be essentially that of researchers. So RBI would hire different researchers who would work on related topics of either monetary policies or the macroeconomy as such. So the job of the economist is essentially doing research for the RBI.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Zico. And I think you just answered this, that can you still do BA Economics if you haven't done maths for the previous 4 years? 4 years is a bit too much. Do you still want to take that? And
Yes, for 10th we would need that, I guess. For the +2 level, we don't need that.
Yeah, that's fair. That is what actually you need 10th for the MCQ part also. So the MCQ will have English and quant questions, and they will require at least the 10th standard knowledge in general. So I guess if you haven't done maths, it's not that you can't do it, but you will have to brush up a little before coming for the exam, right? And again, the question is how to prepare for BA English. Shalini, I think you answered it. And also, what are the jobs we can get after BA English?
Okay, I'm going to say what I said earlier about how to prepare for BA English, which is essentially the kinds of questions we ask you really don't need you to prepare. Right? If you're someone who in general, the only thing I will say is that you should be familiar with reading and writing to a certain extent. But that's pretty much it. And really, once you join the program, we will drill you in reading and writing quite a lot. So I mean, don't feel like, oh, I'm not great at writing, I shouldn't apply. You should apply, right? Please apply. So there's that. In terms of what jobs you might get, this is the kinds of electives we offer give you a fairly wide range of jobs you might want to do. So you might want to do jobs in, say, editing and publishing, because we have a lot of courses which focus on writing, on creating different kinds of material, that kind of thing. You might. I think a lot of students from the humanities program often end up going for master's programs or for higher education. Some students do end up going into education, right? Maybe Teach for India programs, things like that. We're hoping the BA English program, you should know, when you come in, it will be in its second year, so you'll be a little bit guinea pigs. We have courses with translation, which is a sphere that I think has a lot of job opportunities. Right? People are always looking for translators for books, for films, for programs that are running, all kinds of things. Right? Everyone likes translators. You might want to think of a future in media, journalism, that kind of allied fields, and so on.
Thank you, Shalini. Juliana, you've written the answer, but do you want to say it for everybody that if you're doing, say, BA English, can you take philosophy electives? And actually, if you can give a larger answer to saying if you're doing any course, can you do cross electives? Right? You've written that yes, you can take philosophy electives. Aditi or Juliana, you can answer one of you. Yeah. Juliana, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I think it's better for you to answer, Aditi.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I mean, so as you'll see, there's even space for this in our curriculum. You can take electives in other courses. Of course, this is going to depend on the course itself when it's being taught, whether it's full or not. But there's definitely the opportunity for you to take electives in other disciplines. So, does that kind of answer your question? Is there more to say about this? Amit, Shalini, do you wanna jump in?
Yeah, Amit, you can add. Basically, the general thing about, if you're doing one major, you're still open to electives from all the other majors, right? Within a certain limit, of course, although we
Right.
don't officially offer a minor,
Right.
but you're free to take electives from other disciplines.
I mean, we have streams, right? So streams are, I guess, the closest you get to what gets called a minor in other places. So yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, that should be okay. Yeah, there are. I think the specific questions regarding to the majors are done actually. We can. What are the subjects with BA Economics? I guess we have the details of the BA Economics course on our website as well. So you can go through that. We've covered some of it here. And then you can take electives from any other course. So when you're doing economics, you can take, potentially you can take history or English electives as well. Right? So that's the answer to that. Yeah, I guess. Aditi, you can take public reasoning, and that's a part of our CC, right? So yes, you can take a public reasoning question, and it's interesting for everyone. Yes.
Yeah, there was just a question that came up in chat, but this is relevant to no matter what you come here and do. This is just going to let you know we have this course. You can't get away from it, and you shouldn't want to because it's so much fun. What does it let you do? Well, basically, it teaches you to think slowly and carefully while working with other people through everyday arguments on topics of larger social interest. Doesn't that sound like fun? You'll get to do things like identifying fake news. You will be the best reader of newspapers ever. You're going to really annoy your family. But yeah, it's a really, really great part of our common curriculum. So yeah, that's what we're reasoning.
Okay, thank you. That was good. And yeah, there is a question on, and I can take that. In what language will the interview be taken? The interview will be taken in English. I mean, actually, primarily in English. Although we have faculty members from all over, and they're happy to engage in conversations with the the native language of the candidates who are appearing for the interview. However, our coursework is in English. The entire course will be in English, so it is good if everybody who's applying and is selected has a working knowledge of English enough to be able to read the readings and to answer the questions which are asked in class in English. Otherwise, in terms of local language support, I mean, we know Hindi, we know Tamil, Telugu, everything, and we are happy to converse with our candidates in those languages. But the coursework will be in English at the moment, right? So, yeah, I guess if we are done with the questions, we can, I just have a couple of announcements to make for everybody who's still here. The test would be the entrance test for the early round will be on the 2nd of Jan. It has been postponed from the earlier decided date of 19th of December. There were a variety of reasons, including, the uncertainty around us now. And as well as the CBSE date clashes, and a whole lot. So we put in a lot of thought and we decided on this date, hoping that it would suit a larger number of students. However, if it doesn't, you're welcome to come for the regular round, which is much later, which is in May. Okay, and it is in all probability the test would be online from home. It will be remote proctored and you can write it from home. So that is, and for anything else you can write to us at ugadmissions@apu.co.in and we will be happy to answer your questions. Tomorrow same time we have a similar session on all the science subjects. So physics, maths, and biology, and the BSc B.Ed courses in the same subjects. And for all of us who are interested in the science streams, you should attend the presentations tomorrow. Thank you all for attending today's session. Hope it was useful, and thank you faculty members for a very, very insightful session today. Thank you.
Thanks all.